there was a great show that you were involved with called The Associates, and I think they gave it
Oh,
13
God.
shows.
Oh, oh,
I love that show.
you're going to make me.
That was the
I,
greatest show.
when we did the pilot, it was my biggest get off of my life. I just, and it was such a great cast, and
Wilford Hyde
I
White.
know nobody would bring that up. Thank
Oh
you,
my
thank
God.
you,
I want him
thank
to
you.
put out a box set of the entire series, which is 13 episodes. But it was one I looked at and I said, if they weren't just so fast on the button, that show would have run for years and years and years and would have been, another classic to put next to Mary Tyler Moore and Taxi. It would have been right there.
How was camp?
It was amazing.
So you were in a play?
Yep.
Oh my gosh,
Hey,
incredible.
What are those boxes for?
Don't worry about that. I want to hear more about camp. What else you learned? What else did you
You're
do?
moving.
What?
Really, Mom?
Sylvia,
Oh,
you
wow.
promised.
We're moving?
Look,
She
we
saw the
were
boxes.
Yeah,
she was putting it together.
I don't think she
it's-
was.
We're moving?
Okay,
just.
look, we wanted you to settle in before we sprung the news, but your dad got his promotion.
Yeah, isn't that great?
And we found this great
Oh,
house.
the best
Where?
house, the best house.
Well, that's the thing. We got really lucky.
New
And
Jersey.
Ah.
New Jersey?
I'm sorry.
Oh.
Welcome to Behind the Lens today. Oh, I've been waiting for this. This man's credits, I can't even do them all, but from television, he has more Emmys than anybody, I understand, 21. The Simpsons, The Mary Tyler Moore Show, Taxi, you name it, he's done it. And then movies, starting with Terms of Endearment, wins 3 Academy Awards, still holds the record, the only person to win 3 in one night for directing, producing, and for writing without sharing them with anybody. That's pretty good right there. Broadcast
Share the
news.
producing.
Broadcast news, and as good as it gets, he's as good as it gets. Please welcome James L. Brooks.
Thank you, Pete.
And now you are producing a movie that people have just loved. Once again, it's something that it took 50 years to get to the screen, but Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret, opened and is like way up there in terms of critical acclaim and audiences. That's the perfect thing right there.
Yeah, and it was perfect working. Kelly Fremont Craig, who wrote it and directed it, and we worked with attention I'd never had before. Do not be the person who lets Judy Blume down. Do not.
She would not give the rights to this book for years.
For 50 years.
50 years. That's pressure right there.
Yeah.
What was your magic that you weaved here?
It's Kelly's magic. Kelly wrote her a letter, just looking for her next job. We did Edge of 17 together, which was Kelly's
fantastic.
first film. And she wrote her a letter saying, "I'd love to adapt this book." and Judy had seen Edge of 17 and thank God liked it.
Yeah.
And so she said, "Let's talk." We got on a plane immediately.
Wow.
And went there, and it was great. It was so, and her husband George, who's wonderful, was sitting with his back to us, and I was tongue-tied.
Really?
Around her, and she's perfect. She's Judy Blume, and she's who you want her to be, and I was flustered, and felt like I was really messing things up in auditioning for her, and then at a certain point, George, whose back was to us, and he was doing something else, he suddenly looked over his shoulder and said, "We're doing this, aren't we?"
Wow.
Yeah. And it was electric. It was great.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
It's a book that is beloved, obviously, by young girls. So many generations have come up. But when I saw the movie, and I was at the premiere in Westwood, actually, and I'm going, okay, well, I love Kelly. I loved Edge of 17. She's great. Your stuff, amazing. So I said, this is good, but I'm not so sure I'm going to be the audience. I was the audience because it's universal. Everybody there has a coming of age going on.
Yeah.
From the youngest, the star, Margaret, to Kathy Bates, all of them.
Judy said something about Kelly's work that no author has ever said about a writer director in movies. It's better than the book.
That's really unusual.
Maybe unique.
Yeah. One of the key things here was finding the right Margaret. When you're casting something, and you've worked with kids a lot too, I know, but and finding them. One movie I loved that I know was problematic in ways, I'll do anything. You had a star of that was just magic,
Yes.
in my opinion.
Yes. Yeah, she was 6.
6 years old, and
yeah.
she was
Yeah,
so
it
good.
was the only time I ever fell in love with the leading lady. Yeah.
And here you found Abby to do
through
this role.
through an exhaustive audition process.
How many
and
did you look at?
Hundreds, I think.
Wow.
I think hundreds. And there was nobody in second place. It wasn't, oh, who should we, then she walked in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's so key on a movie like this. You really don't have the movie unless you have that perfect casting there.
It had to be, and Kelly's terrific at that. And she does improv in an interesting way for her auditions. And she walked out and we felt we had it.
Yeah. Gracie Films, which you've run for years and years, mentors filmmakers in a way. You find filmmakers maybe who haven't made a movie or on the cusp of it, and bring them up in the Brooks style in some way.
I don't think of it as mentoring. I don't think of myself as I think I'm hoping Gracie Films very small, you can't be a smaller shop than we are.
Yeah.
And but the one thing that we're trying to think of how there was a time when everybody's lawyer wanted them to be a company. I think it might still be going on. I mean, really, you have to be a company. Why? I don't know. You have to be a company.
I know.
And I was thinking, what could be set us apart? And it's writers first, and that's what we do. And every writer, there haven't been that many, but every writer is either producer or director of the film.
Yeah.
Whether or not they've directed before or produced before.
It's a formula that really works.
Works
so
out. It works out.
You can't go wrong with content, with words. And that's how you started, obviously.
Yeah, yeah. And the one thing you have is that you sit down and the writer saw a movie. It might not be the movie that you should make, but it's sure a good start when he or she was writing it.
When you put on your producer hat, though, then what are you looking for? What are you trying to give them there? You've beyond the films you've directed, movies like Jerry Maguire and Big and those kind of things that you didn't direct, but that you acted as producer.
Support. Support. That's it. Just and the one thing that you get a distorted view where the movie properly feels like life or death.
Yeah.
You immerse yourself and it's distorted, but it's a good distortion. And knowing that I can be the producer who feels that way with the writer director. Yeah.
What do you look for though in material and stuff that you want to put out there? And is it more difficult to get it made now, or has it always been this way in the business?
I think it's more difficult now to do a picture based on a writer wanting to express something, wanting to express themselves.
Yeah.
Without trying to adapt a circumstance or I think that's harder.
Yeah.
I don't think people lean forward when somebody says, "I got a crazy idea," and I remember when they did.
Really? Well, they were interested in original movies more than 12 sequels to something.
I mean, it was before people could run numbers and be pretty accurate.
Yeah.
That's data is a devil in a way. Yeah.
You did something that's not always easy, coming from a very successful television background, and then moved into movies like Blume. Right there, you were able to do it, but it was a long road to get to that point. Did you always want to do movies, or?
I never wanted to direct, but when you do television and you're the showrunner, which I was, I mean, you have authority over your material. And the only way in movies to do that is to direct.
Yeah, the television is different in that way.
Yeah,
the producer
in a lot
really
of ways,
is the king there, as opposed to
the
directors
showrunner.
come in, and like when you were doing Mary Tyler Moore Well, you had Jay Sandrich
Yes,
and everything, but
which was wonderful. But basically, it's you're the final decision.
yeah, yeah, which is, I can't imagine television not working any other way because that's so important
Yeah,
there.
yeah. It's a writer centric. Yeah.
Yeah. You started out doing sitcoms just as a writer, like My Mother the Car. I'm sure they bring that up to you, but what was and Andy Griffith? You did all these, I mean, iconic shows of the time. What was that like? What's your
It was
memory?
like getting a job that I dreamed about.
That was it, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
How did you come about, getting into this? Why were you dreaming about it?
I was a news writer, and and when I was a kid, they used to have Theater Magazine where you got a play in each issue of the magazine.
Oh yeah.
There was a play, so I read plays a lot. I mean,
Uh-huh.
that was what I did, and but I didn't have any thought. I mean, I didn't have ambition. I didn't have it wasn't possible. My ambition was to survive. Which seemed tall enough order, and I got lucky. I mean, it's amazing how you got to catch breaks, and my wife at the time gave me the courage to leave a job that I loved, which was news writing, a union job, a decent salary, and it was past my ambitions. I mean, having that job was like amazing for me at CBS, and she gave me, and I got a chance. I got an offer to do documentaries at Walper Productions, if you remember them.
Sure, David Wolper, amazing.
They were the great independent production house for docs, and she gave me the courage to come out here, and I got out here, and they laid me off after like 6 weeks. They had a layoff, and I was laid off, and she supported us for a while, but we were here, and then I ran into Alan Burns, late great Alan Burns, at a party. And he had 5 shows on the air at the time. He had like the months. He had 5 shows that he created with somebody else. And I was in a grungy group of documentary writers, and he came in a tuxedo with him and his wife, looking like they belonged on a cake.
Oh my God.
And he was one of the best human beings I've ever met in my life. And he had 5 shows on the air, and he gave me a chance to do one of them, just standing there. And then, we were contemporaries, and we ended up becoming partners.
Yeah.
And he was one of the great guys in the world.
He's amazing. And he went into movies too. Co-wrote Little Romance and some terrific films as well.
Yes.
But you guys created the Mary Tyler Moore Show, and that just took off. As you would think it might be with Mary, but it was so perfect and so well done. Did your news background help you in?
That? Dictated a lot of it. Yeah, Lou Grant was based on somebody. Yeah.
That was amazing too, that you were able to take the Lou Grant character and turn it into Lou Grant, which has almost never been done.
Yeah, we said to ourselves, when is a spinoff not a spinoff? And then when you change genre,
Totally, from comedy to drama. When I was a college student, I got an internship at MTM, and I spent a summer there. It was the 4th season of Mary Tyler Moore and the 2nd season of Bob Newhart. I was essentially on Bob as a writing intern. I got through the TV Academy, and it's a summer I'll never forget.
Did you get to meet Grant Tinker? Did you?
I did. I absolutely got to meet Grant Tinker. I got to meet everybody. I sat in the stands on a Monday, and I saw Alan Ludden sitting there, and I went over and started talking to him, and Betty White was rehearsing. And I said, wow, she's great in this. And I said, you should make her a regular or something. And he goes, they're talking about it. And that was her very first show. It was an amazing time. But I do remember going to the show every Friday night and hearing your laugh. It was just famous. If you go in and you watch Taxi or anything, you'll hear that famous laugh. That was something you couldn't control, or you wanted to do for every show?
It's rough. I try and control it, because if I'm in a movie theater or something, I'm glad you called it a laugh. It's more like a cackle, I'm afraid. And people turn around and give you dirty looks, and I'm just enjoying it.
It's great. It's like a signature of that. So I can't believe it, but Paramount just sent me a 4K restoration of terms of endearment. 40 years now since that movie. It doesn't seem like that long ago to me. How does it feel to you to look back on things that you've done like that?
I'm not a big fan of looking back, but this was thrust at me, and I remember every step of it so vividly, and I have a notoriously bad memory, but I have sense memory about everything connected with that picture.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, it
yeah.
was your first movie as a director. You had done Starting Over.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
But so did you go in Shirley MacLaine and Jack Nicholson, and you walk onto a set like that, and what was that
Well,
like?
it was Deborah Winger got me Jack.
Oh.
I wouldn't have had Jack without it. I wouldn't have been able to get a script read by Jack without her. So
Wow.
that was sort of, and the picture isn't the picture with it. That's the most humbling thing of all. I mean, we can both sit here and know the picture wasn't the picture without him.
Yeah.
And Shirley was great. She was. I remember when I went out to see her at her apartment, and at a certain point we were just standing next to each other, facing in one direction, not looking at each other. And she looks down and she said, "This could be important." And I realized that meant she was doing it. And
Wow.
and again, without her, that's the humbling thing you can't live with. That you can have the script, you can have the same person directing it, but you got 11 different movies that can be made out of it.
Like we were talking with Margaret, you're great at casting, however you do it and whatever you go through to do it. But with broadcast news, Holly Hunter, it's hard to imagine that movie without Holly Hunter. And just bring and Albert Brooks.
And that was she had done one thing. She was about to leave New York. I never would have gotten her. Juliet Taylor, who was just great casting director, she said, "Oh, there's one person. Let's see if she's in town." And I know who was in second place, and the picture wouldn't have been the picture without.
Really? Wow. I just reviewed actually last week and watched the Albert Brooks documentary that you're interviewed for, and he's another one that so many amazing stories of the whole sweating, was sort of not in the script, I guess, right?
We needed something, and then Albert called me and said, "Turn on CNN."
There was a guy
sweating,
actually,
yeah,
and it was as simple as there it is.
Your eureka moment. Yes.
Oh my God,
yeah.
It was hilarious.
Yeah.
I don't know what the tricks you used to produce the sweat, the movie magic there, but I recently rewatched that movie. By the way, if you get the Criterion edition, watch the extras of the ending, because there's the alternate ending that you tried to stage.
It's in there?
Yeah.
Oh,
and
wow.
you go through the whole thing. It's really fascinating for any film student or anybody to watch and try to do that. You try to surprise your actor by not telling them
right
that William Hurt was going to jump in.
It's a romantic triangle, and I try to defeat the formula by saying the picture isn't going to say which guy you should root for. It's going to keep it, it's not going to slant the game at all.
Exactly.
It was scary and great letting the actors know I didn't have an ending that I was devoted to, that I was still looking for it.
Right.
So that the scenes didn't happen with a goal in mind. This isn't where we're trying to make it like you're rooting for that guy.
Yeah.
And I think that was very important to the picture.
Oh God, yeah.
And then at the end, nobody gets the girl in this movie, and she's at the airport, and William Hurt says to come with her, to come with him, and at the last minute she does not.
Yeah.
And what I thought would be, because there was a French picture I read about two lovers, where the end of the picture was at a train station, and the woman believes it was ending tragically, and the guy turned up and she didn't know it. And I think it's called a man and a woman. I think it's that picture.
Man and a woman, yeah.
Yeah. And everything was great. So I said, I want to do that.
You want to do a man and a woman?
I want to surprise her like that.
Except one of those nightmare situations for a director happened. Somebody just What they yelled?
It was just what it takes, 70 people in the crew, whatever it is, and she's in the car, and I knew they'd improvise. If Bill got in, knowing it,
Yeah.
I knew I'd get something genuine and like crazy, and
Right.
I relish it. And just before he gets in the car, somebody in the crew says, "Hey, Bill," and I haven't had that many out-of-body experiences in my life. And
Yeah.
I was just a wet rag at the end of it. I mean, so much plotting went into this.
Oh my God! But you wound up shooting it anyway.
Yeah, but it was.
But it wasn't the ending.
Yeah,
It lives on. Don't you? Do you like these editions that have all the secrets of movie making and everything?
I'm okay with it.
Yeah, and doing the commentary like you do on
Yeah.
terms and all
Yeah,
that.
just try and make it, just tell it.
Yeah, it's amazing too. Your track record with supporting actors, with Jack Nicholson on Terms, with Albert Brooks, who was nominated on Broadcast, with Greg Kinnear. I just rewatched As Good as It Gets not long ago. Greg Kinnear was fantastic.
And it was the
in that.
impossible part to cast. It was just
it?
we went months. Yeah.
Wow, and
Yeah.
he's so good. And I didn't remember how good he was when you look at it again.
Yeah.
Especially working with Jack and Helen.
Yes.
And everything.
Yes. Out of the box too. Yeah.
Yeah, because he
Yeah.
wasn't. He was a talk show host.
Yeah.
It's amazing. So you're coming back to directing. I know you're not going to want to talk about too much about that, but you're still.
Fade in.
You're going
I'll
to
stop
be.
pitching my guts out.
You're
Yeah.
going to be in the seat again as a director. Have you been looking for just the right thing, or
No, I spent a lot of years writing what I hope is the right thing.
Yeah, and excited to do it again.
I'm excited to do it. I think there's a chance I'll be working with Albert again in it, and that'll be great. Yeah.
God, that's so exciting. I
Yeah.
want Albert to make more movies.
You
too,
bet. You
know.
bet. You
I mean,
bet.
they don't get enough movies like this. I call them humanist films, some movies about people. And somewhere Hollywood lost its way. You can make them and certain directors, but not a lot of people want to do it. It's too much of a big sell, I think, to studios these days.
There's a thing where you can read data and have a good batting average, and so it's much less seat of your pants, but I'm going to work again in just a few weeks. So we're going to go location hunting. I'm going to do a picture that hopefully Albert will be in, and yeah.
Wow.
And it was and it's so I'm very it's great if you can sit down and do something for reasons you don't understand, but it just comes out of you without trying to get the log line right and make it sound whatever, and to get a chance to make it. So it's you feel lucky when you do.
So much good stuff from James L. Brooks. And Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret is something you've got to check out. Another great movie. And best of luck.
Kelly Freeman Craig, I think, is one of the important young talents.
She's got it.
Yeah,
no, there's no question.
Yeah.
And she's so nice too.
Yes.
I like her. Well, we wish you luck with your new venture, and thanks for coming in and joining us behind the lens, James.
Thanks a
L.
lot,
Brooks.
Pete. Thank you. Good to be here.